Welcome, welcome, welcome to another Educator Alexander webinar. We're so happy to have you here. Make sure that you sign in if you would like a CLU or CEU certificate of attendance, but this is only for people that are joining us live. So if you're watching the recording, you do not have to sign in at all. Let's move on. So I'm Desiree Alexander. I am your host. I am the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, and I work for a nonprofit in Louisiana called Apple or APEL. These are all of the various ways that you can find me, and you can, well, I don't like find me. Sounds a little stalkery, but that you can contact me if you need help with anything. So yay, life. You'll get this information in your email as well, especially if you sign in. So we have some other free webinars coming up. We usually do about one a month, but man, during this time, guys, we're having like one every weekend pretty much. So next weekend, I think, is it already June, guys? Oh, so next weekend we're having best practices for English language learners. So your ELL, ESOL, ESL, all the initials. Students during distance learning. By the lovely and amazing Natalia. And then we're having Have Fun with Autocrat by Louise. If you know Louise, you love Louise. And then you have Sign Oh Might, learning some sign language for beginners by the lovely and amazing and incredible Talana. And notice you can register for all of these at the exact same place at alex.net/events. If you know my website, educatoralexander.com, and just click on upcoming events. And then you have Classroom Management and Beyond. This is a repeat from last year by the amazing, incredible, adorable, beautiful, astounding myself. And then we have Sarah rolling on back in for Templates for Teachers in September. Sarah and Beth. So I can't wait for that one as well. We do have some other ones that are actually being planned right now. One for librarians, one for website usage, just so much stuff coming up, guys. And then we have some free conferences. So I'm just going to roll through these very quickly because you know that you can find them all at the same website. So we have Virtual Camp Apple coming up next week, free. Whole bunch of people presenting one at a time, so you don't even have to choose. I think we have about 500 people signed up so far, so it's crazy. So sign up for that. We have digital equity in times of crisis. So if you want to get a little bit deeper and let's talk about some equity issues, I will be on the June 15th panel, but all the panels are awesome. So take a look at that. Then I was like, oh, look at my face. I am going to be presenting for GEG Louisiana on fast hacks for Google for productivity. VER is sponsoring a distance learning class. Now this one is paid. This is the only thing that's not for free, but it's on July 7th, 8th, and 9th, depending on your time zone, Central, Pacific, and Eastern. But if you want to come to the Central and you live in Eastern, it doesn't matter. You can join any one of them. And I think last but not least, and we may have one after this, is EdChange Global. This is the international conference that has been in existence since 2015. I'm very proud to work with them. It's a free 24-hour, what you say now? 24-hour online international conference that's not just technology, it's about everything, guys. Anything and everything. And last but not least, I will be presenting at the Indiana Connected Educators event. This is live and it is free and it is for anybody. When you're presenting, I have no clue. We haven't gotten that far yet, but I'm presenting on July, the conference is July 20th through 24th. So all of these events you can look at on that same website and sign up for whatever you feel like signing up for. We will have an evaluation at the end. I do ask you to fill it out. Sarah is volunteering her time. I know I told her I was going to pay her, but Sarah lied. She's volunteering her time today. So please, if you do nothing else, do leave an evaluation for her at the end. I mean, that's all we're asking, right? That's all we ask for. So what I'm going to do at this time is I'm going to stop running my mouth. I know some of you are cheering. Y'all are rude. I'm going to stop running my mouth and I'm going to let Sarah share her screen. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. So I'm going to let Sarah go ahead and hop in and start sharing her screen. I will be answering things in the chat, guys, so definitely throw it in the chat. And any questions that you may have for her while she is presenting, put it in the chat as well, and I will ask her those questions. If you still need to sign in, I'll be posting that, but I will help you at the very, very tippy end. I'm muting myself. Sarah, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Kiefer. I'm very excited to be here. And somebody mentioned this, I think it was Robin in the chat, that, you know, Desiree has a lot of energy, and very, very, very true. And I'm sitting here and I'm like a little bundle of nerves. So let me introduce myself. Sarah Kiefer. I am a technology integration specialist for the Ross Local School District, just a little northwest of Cincinnati, Ohio. I've been there my entire career except for my first year, so 17 years at Ross. Classroom teacher for the first 14, and taught 5th grade as well as 7th and 8th grade social studies. And then our district went one-to-one with Chromebooks, and the whole trajectory of my career changed. I fell in love with the use of Chromebooks, the abilities that it gave to my students, and started doing the Google modules, and from there I've blown through everything. I've adopted Google really as like my everything. And this past October, Desiree was my innovator coach at the NYC 19 Innovator Academy in New York, and I was honored to be there, and it's been a whirlwind of excitement and fun ever since. What I'm doing today is all around a second hat that I wear. And we all know that being a teacher isn't really your only job. A lot of us are parents. A lot of us have, you know, supplemental contracts. A lot of us do advising and moderating for various clubs. One of the ones that I came to take part in was the 8th grade DC trip. So Alyssa started this trip about 18 years ago, 17 years ago, and I came on board about 5 years ago to help co-coordinate it. And really, like, honestly, our passion is to communicate well with our parents. We understand taking kids from Ohio to our nation's capital is a big deal. And through the evolution, like, we always had a website, and through that evolution, I said to her after one trip, I said, I feel like we should just bring it together. Like, what if we had something? And I said, I feel like it should be an app. And she was like, okay, go for it. She's like, I have no clue what you want to do or can do or whatever. So I started in a spot that I knew how to do. So level 1, I've got 3 different levels here. So I've progressed from one place to another, but I started with Google Slides. And Google Slides has been absolutely incredible. So that's where we're going to start. And then as long as Desiree can keep me on time and on task, we'll get to Google Sites, which is where I progress next. And then the third evolution of our app and my dealings with creating an app to work in your classroom is to incorporate a product called Glide Apps, which at its basis is built off of a Google Sheet. So we're still in the Google ecosphere, if you will. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get started. Desiree, are there any questions before we move on, or are we good?
We are good to move on.
All right. So I'm just going to ask or make a request. If you have your cell phone handy, and this will work best if you're not on your cell phone. If you have your cell phone handy, can you just kind of keep it nearby? I'm going to have you use it if you want to, totally optional, but if you want to, it'll give you a different little effect to this whole presentation. So we're going to start with Google Slides. And like I said, really my need was for the DC trip. Micah Shippey, who's also a Google innovator, and I believe he is more out west, he had thrown out a proposal in a blog post, and I read it, and I was completely captivated by it. He used Google Slides to create an app for a classroom. And that just kind of, like, it just blew my mind, because I'm like, no, Google Slides, like, that's, you know, presentations. And that was like seeing what he did, I was just kind of like, that is incredible. It's very, very mind-blowing that, and I knew Google Slides. Like, I love Google Slides. Everybody loves Google Slides. It's great. So this led me down this process, and I've got basically 6 steps to share. First of all, right here in the blue, you've got to know your why. You have to know why you're doing this. Otherwise, it's not going to work out so well. You really have to keep that in mind and keep coming back to it. And then because it's an app, I have found that it works really great to have some sort of a theme to build this all around. So for our DC trip, it made it really easy. You know, Washington, DC is where we go, and we're the Ross Rams, you know, our colors, maroon and gold. So I use that to build off of. For a classroom, maybe a lot of teachers, now that I'm down at the elementary level, I do technology integration for pre-K to 4 now in 2 different buildings. A lot of the teachers have almost like mascots for their class. Your theme could easily be that. I'd want to plug in there, I suggest you create this with your students. So let the students come up with, or help come up with, the theme. The third thing that you really need to start thinking about is, what on earth are you even going to include? Because if you include things that parents or students are not interested in, don't really need, your app's not going to have any value. And that's what I kept coming back to, is what's going to keep pushing them to come back to this app. So why am I even doing this? Which connects very closely with your why. And then I've got some tips to help you, how you can publish and share it. And then finally, how to just wrap it all up, bring it all together. And then finally, there's some credits and things. Because as good as I sometimes like to think that I am, like, I have not gotten here solely based on me. I have taken pieces from what other people have. I've taken people's feedback. I've learned from so many people. Like, this is my baby because I'm putting it out there, but it is truly a mixed mash of so many different places and people and ideas and thoughts. So moving on, you say, well, but Sarah, like, none of this really even looks like an app. Like, this is a Google slide. And we all know, like, if we pulled up a Google slide on our phone, you know, it's, you know, we're going to say, well, no, this isn't an app. She's crazy. Why am I even here spending an hour on my Saturday? And I say, well, yeah, this is just my presentation though. Like, this truly is the presentation part. We have to kind of adjust our perspective, right? Because having a slide in landscape doesn't look like an app. It's never going to look like an app. So we have to adjust here a little bit. So this is where I say, if you have your phone, please scan that QR code. And I learned this year, if you take the camera off of your phone, and as long as it's, and it doesn't matter if it's Android or Apple, as long as it's a relatively new one, I believe it should work fine. But you don't even have to have a QR code reader if you use your camera. You should be able to scan that. Like, I just turn on my camera, hold it up to my screen, and then at the top you should get like a little notification. Do you want to open this you know, in Safari? I have an iPhone, so it always asks, do you want to open it in Safari? So if you would go ahead and do that, I'm going to go ahead and go there as well. And just kidding, I tricked you. That was mean of me. I apologize. No, but I wanted to walk you through the process of making it feel like an app. So we're going to start here. Again, I just created a new slide. I've shared it out. On your screen, it should look like a white box in the center, and you've got a bunch of black at the top and the bottom. And that's the first thing that I do when I create an app, modify a slide to make it into an app. And this still blows a lot of people's minds. So if you haven't noticed this before, first thing I would always suggest that you do is give this a name, right? So I'm going to call this my app. And then the second thing that I always suggest that you do is you're going to change the orientation of this slide. So under the File menu, you're going to come down almost to the bottom. So click on File, and then almost to the bottom, you're going to go to this Page Setup. And your standard, your default is going to be the widescreen. When you click on widescreen, you have some options. I always go down to Custom, and then it's going to allow you to pick inches, centimeters, points, pixels. I've done a little bit of research, like what is a good resolution for a phone. I've tried a couple of different things. I've pulled them up on my phone, and honestly, what I have found actually looks the best is if you think of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Plus, it also then gives you the flexibility if you were to need to print one or more of your slides off, like maybe you have, it's a classroom app, and maybe you have a few parents that don't have internet at home. Maybe they don't check, digital versions of things, and you still want to send home a paper copy. If you go ahead and just make this 8.5 by 11, I leave it on inches, and then you hit apply. We've just now adjusted our perspective. And here's the second cool tip I'm going to say. If you have this up on your phone, you'll notice that I've changed it on here, but your phone doesn't reflect it. I don't know if you can see that or not. It doesn't reflect it until you hit that refresh button up in the very, very top. I'm hoping you can see that, the little circle that doesn't quite make it all the way around. If you refresh it, it should now adjust better to your screen. And now it actually kind of does look like an app. So now we're going to get busy, and we're going to jump more into classroom mode, if you will. And please just follow along and watch this. I do want you to know in the presentation, in the slide deck that you're going to get, you will get this slide that's in here, and I actually have 2 different apps that you can go ahead and take the template. One is a travel theme, so if you're like me and you run a class trip, you can grab this one. It gives you one that's kind of themed for travel, and then this one over here is what I'll be showing you parts of too, and that's a classroom app. So it's built definitely more for use in the classroom. So I've got these 2 templates, so don't worry about really understanding a whole lot. And if you notice these little gray items that are kind of poking in there, those are actually speech bubbles, which I absolutely adore. And so when you click on it, I'll just go do that real quick. When you click on it, you'll notice that there are these gray things in there, and you'll go, well, that's weird. Those are speech bubbles, and I use those to help give you some direction as to what to do, how to do things. Open that up real quick. You can see that I've got some information here. So when you open up a template, you've already got a lot of this stuff built in, but I'm going to show you how we can create this. So first thing I would do then is delete all of this stuff off the top page. And this is going to be, think of this as the initial screen that they're going to see when they open up their app. Now, if you're in a classroom, you may have a specific title that you want to give it. We're just going to work with a real basic, and then know that you can take this and change it however you want. I absolutely love, 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 love word art. Text boxes are great for certain purposes, but I love, absolutely adore word art. So word art is amazing because you can stretch things proportionally if you really want to fit it into certain spots. And then you can also do a lot of pretty cool things with your color. I love the gradient piece. So when I show students about the gradient, it's where it fades from one color to another. Here they give you some pretty standard ones. Red's my favorite, so I always like to choose that. You have the same abilities with your fonts, like maybe you want to pick a fun font. And two, here's a great tip for using slides. Whether you're creating an app or not, when you start dragging it around your screen, these red lines do give you guides to to help you understand like where the halfway points are for items. So I always like to try to have things centered to help out with that. So you could have like Mrs. Kiefer, maybe you have a grade level. Let's just do 7th grade. Maybe this one you want to make it a little bit smaller. You can really become very visually attractive for your parents and your students, and make it fun. And this is where I say, if you're willing to, this would be a great class project. Have kids like submit ideas or proposals, incorporate a little bit of writing and say, what should be the theme of our classroom app? And allow them to come up with an idea and pitch it to the rest of the class, and almost like do that, some of that persuading. Always trying to think about how can you make this more valuable to your students. Plus, it's going to give them ownership. And I think anytime we give our students ownership, they're more likely to use this and to talk to their parents about it. And that is the biggest focus of any of the apps that I create. It's all about that communication piece. So I want to make sure that it's useful. Otherwise, why spend my time doing this? I'm not interested in spending a whole lot of time doing something that no one's going to look at or check out. And as we go through this, if you still have it up on your phone, just keep hitting that refresh button. That's one of the best things about using a slide as an app, is because it's all live. I don't have to keep publishing this. So if you find typos, which spelling's not my forte, if you find typos and you go in there and you adjust it, even on the fly, it's going to be live. It's going to be updated for your parents, for your students. It's fantastic. There was a great story. I was on a trip once and we needed to make an adjustment. So I just pulled up the Slides app on my phone, and because I'd already had my account attached and everything like that, I just went into the app, made the adjustments, and boom, it reflected that for any of the, I think we had like 249 people on that trip. It reflected that for anybody immediately. They didn't have to wait for the next update. It just blew my mind sitting there that I could do that and still make that communication that simple. So let's pick a theme. Let's search for, what if we wanted to do the Greeks? Like maybe let's do Greek mythology. Actually, no, let's do American history. And honestly, you could do whatever you want. Oh, if I could spell correctly. Let's pick, I was just kind of looking for a flag. Let's just find an American flag. That's a nice picture. I'll click on it, and then I'm going to insert it. So we've got a nice little American flag. You can change the background color. This is where I do find gradient to be an excellent use of color. Just let it fade up there. You can customize all of that. And then the one thing to be very cautious of is, because you go into presentation mode, you're publishing it and people look at it on their phones, down at the very, very bottom, is try to stay away from putting anything down at the very bottom, like maybe this lower, I don't know, fifth. Just because on a phone, if people accidentally touch stuff, bump stuff, it's going to maybe trigger the slide show, that black gray box that shows up, and that kind of throws off the like the whole appearance of it being an app. So let's just leave it like this. So we've got our nice, beautiful title slide. And again, I say on your phone, if you refresh it, beautiful, right? I mean, it reflects that real nicely on my phone too. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to make the second page. So I always go down and start out with a new one. Chances are I'm also going to keep the background the exact same. And now we're really ready to build. So when we go and we build, one of the things that I would highly suggest that you do is on the second slide, give yourself the opportunity to have some sort of like banner, some sort of like they have to go to this next slide. And so what I might do is find in my shapes a banner and put it here. And then this is where I would use a text box. And I would call this important info. And by doing that, have you guys seen this new little, you can just go up +1? I have it in a couple of my accounts, but not all of them. I thought it was pretty ingenious. And I'll pick one font to go through. Again, I'll look for these little red lines and notice how they go a little bit smaller because it's actually centering it over that particular banner, that shape. And then that way I know I've got those in the same, you know, they're all tucked in there together. So the idea behind this slide is maybe you have an upcoming field trip and you need permission slips for, or you have an upcoming test that you want to make parents and students aware of. Or, you know, don't forget that we're off school on Friday, or, you know, have a great summer. This is a great purpose for a second slide, to keep that right there in the forefront and change this out frequently, right? Because your important information isn't going to stay your important information all of the time. Thinking about this in like this past distance learning environment, this would have been a great spot to kind of help guide parents do this today. You know, this is due in a week. And keeping in mind, you know, what is current and what is important right now. So then again, you know, what I'm going to do is I would just even duplicate this slide, which this is fantastic. If you click on the slide and then you do Control D, Command D if you're on a Mac computer. And then I'm just going to get rid of these two because I don't need them anymore. And then here's where it truly becomes the app, right? Because you've got your title slide, you've got your important information, and now we're going to get into the actual app. So what I'm going to do is think about what an app looks like. Basically, it's all, you know, rectangles, or little squares. And here's where I say, if you know exactly what it is that you're going to want in your app, it's going to go a lot further. So I'm going to want a couple of things, and I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to use my I'm going to use this slide that I already have, and I'm going to just copy and paste a couple of things just to make this go quicker, because I know we're not going to stay here for forever. Oh, I didn't grab you. Copy and paste. Okay, so basically I've created my little apps. Like, so these are the links within my classroom app. And you notice like important things, contact information, what are the digital programs, hey, what's the homework, lunch menu, and classroom expectations. And then basically all you have to do at this point is you continue to create slide after slide where you're typing in. Yes.
Hey, sorry to interrupt you. Can you show the, oh my gosh, my brain went, the QR code once again? So
sure. The QR code is right there. Actually, what if I do this? Let me copy that. Oops. And let me go here and let me paste it here. How about that? Does that work? I'll make it work.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
No problem. So to make these, they're just like little squares, and honestly all I do is I come up to shapes and I use the rounded rectangle, And what I might even do is create it over here to the side and, you know, make it exactly how I want it. I do prefer it to look like a square. So you could go into the format options and make it really look like a square, but I always start with just that base shape. They're all the same. And then I added, if you look at each of these are just individual icons. I'm a big lover of the noun icon, or the, yeah, is that what it is? Noun project, where I get my icons from. I do pay for it, and it's very valuable. I absolutely love it. And then you just keep building apps, you know, these little, and actually all they are tiles. And you can just keep going and keep going. And then really the power and the beauty of an app comes here. So we've got the title, we've got important information, and we've got this. And it's a big process of copy and paste, repeat, repeat, repeat. Now here's where.
Question, Sarah.
Yes.
Do you also link the slide to jump back to the information slide?
Yes, that is exactly what I am getting ready to show you. Because I found this incredibly powerful, and I was like, duh, this is so simple. Why hadn't I thought about it? You know, when you're on a slideshow, and if you're on slides on your phone or you're in presentation and you just click, like it automatically takes you to the next slide, correct? So I've got a way to trick people, and it's just all about the navigation. So what I always do, and here again, shapes, I'm going to create one ginormous shape right over my entire slide. Notice it's even bigger than my slide. Covers it up. You can't see anything else. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it transparent. And honestly, for me, visually, since it is larger than my slide, I do leave the box color around it so that I remember that it's there. But here's the trick. Either 2-finger tap on it, right click on it, however you want to find it, link it. So you're going to force the navigation now of your slide. So you've got your slides built, you've got your app built, but now we need to force that navigation because it doesn't just happen naturally. They'll just go from slide to slide to slide to slide. So here, I'm taking this whole giant shape, this rectangle, and I am going to force it to, on here, because I want to go from the title to the second slide, I'm going to force it to go to the next slide. So now, no matter where it is on this slide that they click, that they touch, it's going to go to the next slide. It has to. I've forced it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save myself a little bit of time. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it. So you can see now that this is also linked to the next slide. So I'm forcing, when people open it up, they're going to start on the first slide. If they click anywhere on there, it's going to go to the second slide. And then from there, it's going to automatically force them to this slide. And then what I'm going to do again is I'm going to paste that giant square, and it's going to cover the entire slide. And you're going to say, Sarah, you're crazy. You're just going to force it to the next slide. That's a waste of time. No, no, no. What I'm going to do, and here's where like my brain was like literally blown because I didn't know you could do this until I learned that you could do this. So when you click on the link, don't link it to the next slide. What you're going to do is you're going to link it to this slide. Link it to itself. Now let's talk about that for a second. So I'm going to go into present mode. So again, pretend like I'm on my phone. Oh, let me jump back. So I open it up, click anywhere I want to on here. If I click anywhere in this blue, including on top of the apps, and we'll cover that in a second, I am staying right on this slide. It's not letting me go anywhere. So think about on an app, people are not necessarily looking for this down here at the bottom. They're looking for like, oh, I want to click on homework. So I'm going to come up here and click here. Since we put that giant transparent shape on top of everything and linked it to slide 3, they have no choice but to stay here. So now do the same thing, take a shape and cover just a bit more than this particular icon, so the contact information. Now we're going to pretend like I already built out this slide. Give me a second. One second. Let me come over here. Oh, there I did. Look at me. I created over here on the left. You can see I've got my contact information up. And that, notice it's slide 4. So I'm going to use this transparent shape, which is on top of, and I know that's tricky for a second, and I'll come back and I'll explain it, but I'm going to link that one to slide 4. Because again, this is slide 4 over here. This is the contact information, and I'm going to say apply. Now, again, I have to come back, make this transparent. And I know I'm going very quickly, but trust me, all of this information is laid out. And if you grab the template, there are directions off to the sides, which you're going to see in a second. So
Sarah, sorry to stop you. We do have a quick question. What is the name of the add-on?
I use Noun project, which gives me the icons. And it's called Icons by Noun Project.
Thank you so much. And I just want to tell you, because I know you can't see it, that everyone is screaming at you right now how amazing this is, how they are excited. So just keep going. I just want to let you know that people are screaming at you, including myself right now.
Okay, and I know, like, I'm looking at the time and I'm going, oh my gosh, I have so much more to show. So if we don't get to sites or the Glide app, I don't know, Desiree, maybe we can do another one, but I've also got all of that information tucked in the presentation too, and my contact information. So you guys reach out. I've helped a couple of people build their apps, work through some stuff. This is like the nerdy stuff that I absolutely adore doing. So just we'll get there, I promise. Okay. So again,
you can absolutely do another one, but you can also stay on, and those who want to stay with you can stay with you.
Oh, okay.
You can leave, as long as you show everyone the resolution of this, you can stay on if you want to.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Okay. So again, we're on our phone, right? So we forced the navigation from this slide to our second slide. And again, this slide because we've only added one more up here. Everybody just has to stay here. Like we've kind of like contained them in our like little playground here. But when I click on top of contact information, even though you couldn't see it, it's there. Of course, it's going to load. Loading, maybe. Hang on. I'm just going to, oh no. Oh, there we go. Load. Let's go back. Let me click off of this. One second. There. Now it's not all. Okay. So present, we're on our phone, and I want to click on the contact information. Boom. There it is. Now keep in mind, like I cheated. I'm just copying and pasting the vast majority of this. But you can see it's the same shape, different icon, Mrs. Kiefer's class app. This is my contact information slide. And then I've got a little home button, which we'll cover in a second. But notice, like, you can put anything on here, whatever you want. But these are the contacts that I was thinking, like an email, school website, school calendar, call me. But that's the beauty of these clear, transparent shapes. And again, yes, see these descriptions. They're all in the template, I promise. Now let's talk about something here. On this particular app, do you see my little home button? This is the question that Desiree had asked. Can you link back to it? I would not link back to my information slide. I would link back to, this is what I would truly consider my home page. So if you're already in the app, you want to come back here because maybe you want to look at what the digital programs are, or maybe you want to now see what the homework is and not the contact information. Oh, and by the way, a good way to cheat is to just duplicate this over and over again and just edit the slide that it's going to link to. That's what I do to maximize my time. So again, same, and it's not even a trick. use the same process, create a little shape to cover up. And I always do just a smidge more. I have fat fingers and I always just seem to click the wrong item. I'm going to link it to slide 3, apply that, make it transparent. Transparent again, no one can see that. And when you go to click on it, it's going to show you that it's going to link you back to slide 3. And the cool part about that is when you copy and paste that home onto each slide, it becomes very, very simple. And honestly, like you keep building your app. I'm going to show you right here. Let's copy. Sorry, I'm cheating again. There, I just added in my class programs, my digital programs. I would highly suggest if you have a particular history textbook icon, something to really connect the kids visually with that, I would put that here. Google Classroom, notice I pulled their icon. I pulled Google Drive's icon. So again, like covering these over, these you could put, the history textbook that we used in my district was History Alive. So I would grab the website where the kids would log in and I would paste that here. So if a student's using this, boom, takes them right there. So it becomes kind of like that central hub. I'm giving this a lot of value. Where are they going to find their grades? Link it to your grade book, the one that parents and students alike can access. Link them to the different textbooks. If you have if you use Wakelet as a teacher, add that on. But what are your heavy hitters? Like make that do the work for you. And then that way, when any parent says, oh, how do I get to, oh, do you have my app? Oh, you can just add it to your phone. And then they've got it all. They've got it all. And you're constantly updating this. Another great thing that I know a lot of parents, students, everybody wants to have is the lunch menu. What's for lunch? What's for lunch? And you say, check the app. Check the app. We've got lunch on there for you. And that's just, it's a PDF of whatever, school sends out, and you copy and paste it or take a screenshot of it, paste it here, direct them to where it is on your district's website. The one drawback, and here's where we kind of get like the dun dun dun. There are some pros, there's a lot of pros, and then there are a few cons to using a slide. So pro, number one, it's free. It's part of the G Suite. It's versatile. It's updating. All you have to do is just send out the link, and then parents have that. I do have on here a way to, it's in here when you get access to this, how you can publish and share it. It walks you through the steps. It's very simple, and obviously contact me if you have questions. The other cool thing is you can't find this in the App Store, which means you do give yourself a level of security. Because you can imagine if like I was putting my classroom app out there for everyone, like I'm putting it out there for everyone, but I just publish it and give it to my parents, my students. So it kind of gives you that limited playground again. However, it's not an app that you can find in the App Store. So if parents are like, oh, you have an app and I'm in the App Store, how do I find? They're not going to find it there. So again, it's that communication piece. How are you getting it to them? But ultimately then too, because it's a link, you can't control who gets it because you have to make it public. You're publishing it so that it's out there. So if mom wants to hand it to dad, that's great. If they want to hand it to aunt and uncle that live in another state, that's where you're not putting in super identifiable information. I mean, your school email, the school's phone number, like those are things you can find on the website anyway, or maybe you don't include it. But think about that. And also too, you won't really know unless you have conversations. You won't really know how many people look at it unless you use a URL shortener. The other big con to to an app like this is when you put in links like this, it's always going to take you out of the app. So you've got your slides, you've got your app, but if they click on Gradebook, it's going to open that in another window. So I started feeling a little bit of a rub with that, and that's what led me to my 2.0, which was to adjust to using Google Sites. But on that note, Desiree, I noticed the time. Do you think this would be a good time to stop, and do we have any more questions? And then if people are interested in leaving, if they say, you know, Sarah, this is too much, this is a lot, you know, like, wow, this is great, but you know, I got to stop here. It's Saturday. What are your thoughts?
Sure. So I posted the evaluation guys. So if, I mean, of course, we want to be very, very aware of everybody's time. If people are like, keep going, don't let Desiree talk anymore. But I'm posting the evaluation and the sign-in sheet. So if you need to sign in to get your COU or CEU certificate, go ahead and do that. If you need, of course, please do the evaluation. But if Sarah is going to keep going, we are going to keep going. So this is going to be kind of our official ending. I'm going to keep the recordings going though, so we can record all of it. So just in case you're like, oh, I can't stay, that's okay, you'll still get the recording. So sign in, make sure you sign in. Please do the evaluation, because like I'm sitting here all Googly and I'm like, yes, I've learned so much already. So that's what we're going to do. So this is the official end of the class. But we're going to go ahead and keep going, guys. We did have one question. Most people like saw the answers to your questions as you were talking, but we did have one question. Corey said they were looking for the how to build an app with sheets. Was that you that taught something about that online? They weren't sure if that was you.
Yeah, if she might be talking about the Ohio GEG that I did last in April, the end of April.
No, you don't bring up any other organization, ma'am. No, of course. That's why I said, you gotta come do this. You gotta come do it.
I did push out a maybe I did put out a blog post about this. My blog is Tech You Can Do, and the website's techyoucando.com. And we talked about this, which this is like the third level. So I started with slides, love slides, used slides for a couple of years, and then I progressed to needing Google Sites or finding value in using a Google site, and then just this past year using Glide, which is created from a Google Sheet. So I'm still in the Google atmosphere. It's just a different thought process, I guess.
So Corey, if you want to stay on, she's going to talk. She may not go into like every single thing you could do with Glide, but she'll go into Glide. Or again, it is going to be recorded. I'm keeping the recording going. So if you're like, I gotta go, then sign in. You'll get the recording and you'll be on there. Of course, like, don't even stop talking, baby. I'm here. All right, love it. Okay, Sarah, I'm gonna let you continue. Everybody else, thank you so much. I am gonna repeatedly type in the signing and the eval. I don't want you to think I'm being rude, like in the middle of her talking, but I know people need to leave. So I'm gonna repeatedly put that in there. And Sarah, take it away. Everybody else, keep those questions going in the chat.
And thank you to those of you that have joined and need to head out. I totally get it. It's a beautiful Saturday here in Ohio. So I know, you know, I'll want to get off at some point, right? But this stuff it's exciting for me. I love sharing this. I do write a blog called Tech You Can Do. Like I said, www.techyoucando.com. I try to share once a week. And then I have a second blog for resources where I share a little bit smaller. It's not anything big, major overviews, just little quick hitters. And then the third site that I have is Templates for Teachers. And this is what I'm going to present on with Desiree in September with the co-creator Beth Kingsley. And we create templates very much like these slides. Most of them are more simple in nature. and we share them out, and you are free to go to that website, take whatever you want, copy it, make your own copy of it, modify it, adjust it, use it with your students, and run with them. We're very excited. We've learned from a lot of people, so we wanted to give back. And all of those are on the very, very last slide of the presentation that Desiree will share out at the end. But coming back to my journey, so the biggest reason I was using an app was the 8th grade DC trip, and loved doing this. The kids, probably my favorite story of that was we would post the bus lists on our app, and we took 5 buses that this particular year that I'm thinking of, and Alyssa had gotten 4 of the bus lists done, and I had gotten 4 of them onto the slides, but it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I have to go to sleep. We got school tomorrow. I did not get bus 5s on there. And mind you, like I shut it down at like 11 o'clock at night, and we're talking 8th graders here. Alyssa called me the next morning. She's at the middle school, I'm at the elementary, so she starts a little bit earlier than I do. My phone's ringing, it's Alyssa. She was like, hey, the school hasn't started yet, and I have kids standing at my desk. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? And she goes, Sarah, it's not that anything's wrong. It's kids from bus 5. They want to know why their bus lists haven't been posted yet. And I was just like, oh my gosh, Alyssa, it was 11 o'clock. I'm so sorry. She's like, no. She's like, Sarah, I haven't made any announcements. I didn't push anything out. I didn't email. I didn't say anything to these kids. She's like, school hasn't started. And that's what really got me thinking, like, this is incredible. If you build something that has value that people want, they'll use it. And this group of kids clearly showed that they were using this app, because this bus 5 didn't know what their assignments were. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'll do it right now, and I sat down, and then everybody had it. But like, that just goes to show you putting some thought into, like where I said at the beginning, put some thought into your why. Why are you doing any of this? And make it valuable. That doesn't mean kill yourself and put in every tiny little thing. That stuff can all get tossed in there on that the information slide, added later. That's another thing that I learned. My version 1.0 of Google Slide was pretty simple. And then I was like, oh, if I could do that, I can do this. If I can add that, I can add that. Oh, and then what about this? And it just kind of grew to become big. And I loved it. But then it was like, if I link to calendar, they go out. If I link to our tour company, they go out. If I link to an itinerary, they go out. So I started playing around with, after our trip last year, before we left, I felt like I needed to have an easier way for parents to see and students to see our itinerary. We printed them. I didn't feel like I saw a lot of people pulling out their papers from their bags. I felt like a lot of them were on their phones. So I wanted to make the itinerary digital, but easy to read. So I popped over into a Google slide, or a Google site, I'm sorry, and I created this itinerary. Now, this is a Google site, but it's modified, and let me tell you what that means. So you create a new Google site. Up here, this is your valuable button. This is your heavy hitter. This is why I switched over to a Google site, this preview button, because now you get to see what it actually looks like. And hey, this is what it looks like on a computer. And then notice you have 3 little icons down here at the bottom. So again, parents can access this on a computer. This is what it looks like. A little bit of a goofy layout, but it works. This is what it would look like if they're on a tablet. Again, a little goofy, but it works. And here's what it looks like on a phone. Now, I think we could all agree, like, my heart started doing one of those big pitter-patters, like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like, are you kidding me? I could see it. I didn't have to do the QR code. I didn't have to add it to my phone. Like, boom, here it is. This is what it looks like. So you can see I just have a link to each of the days that we're traveling. And when I click on it, it actually allows me to navigate through the app in a mock situation. So I added a little bit of a blurb up here, and then I've embedded a Google Calendar. Now this is for our upcoming trip. So you can see this is just the same Google Calendar that we just reuse and reuse and reuse and reuse. And a lot of that allows me to just copy dates over from year to year, which is a huge time saver. But you can see for parents, they're still in my app. They're still here. And I've got this button up here that says daily details, go back. And what if we want to see what we're doing on Tuesday? You pop that into there, and I have a Google Doc. Even when I go to click the Google Doc, notice I'm still in the site, quote unquote, my app. I'm still there, but I've got this. Now this is what we print and we hand off to our parents anyway. So it's got all of our information here. When they're ready to go back, it is slightly different of a navigation, but I think we're all versed enough in the app world that we kind of look for these things. You know, you close and you go back. And I tucked in little buttons for each of the other days. So you can go to any day of the week, and here's the Google Doc that I have embedded. So it's still living as a Google Doc out there, so we can still print it, and it'll print just fine, but I've embedded it here, and parents can pull it up, students can pull it up, our teacher chaperones can pull it up. Mind blown, right there. Boom. So I was like, okay, love this. If they like that sidebar navigation, they can go there. So I used what I learned with this for our calendar, and I said, I'm going to try, and I told Alyssa, I said, that was probably the biggest rub that personally I felt, but I also heard it from some people. Sarah, I kind of felt like it was all over the place. Like I had to go to a bunch of different areas, and I don't like that. I like it to be nice, neat, tucked in, which is what this app does for you in your classroom. It keeps everything nice, neat, and there. Clickable, it's there. I just found like this for our trip, we were going out to too many places. So for a Google site, I modified it to our trip for this upcoming year. And again, you say, Sarah, that looks a little goofy. It does, but when you click the preview button, and then you check it to see what it looks like on a phone. I mean, I love it. It might be because I took that actual picture when we were in DC this last time. It was sunset. We were at the Washington Monument. So it's a lot of my own love and energy poured into this. But for parents, how quick and easy. I mean, some of you, I'm sure, have probably had your own children go out on these different trips. So imagine if this was your classroom app and this is your communication page. Maybe this is your school district, your classroom calendar, your district calendar, your school calendar, whatever you want to call it. The to-do list, maybe that's your homework page. Packing tips, because it is a trip. I do give them some packing tips, like remember you need to wear gym shoes. Might be shocked at how many 8th graders actually need to have that reminder, or bring your coat. It's November. We go in November. It's cold. They don't always like to believe you on that, but you have to remind them of that. Our itinerary, when we deal with roommates, t-shirt orders on the trip, and then down at the very bottom, I do tuck in like how you can add this to your phone. So I pack a lot of information here, and again, communication very much like our other app, our classroom app, putting them side by side. I've just got little icons. And the cool thing is I've actually tucked in our email addresses so that when they click on them, it opens up in their email client, whatever that is on their phone, and it directly will then email me. So I've even taken out that step of, well, now I got to copy this, or I've got to remember what that is and paste it all over. Nope, it'll open up right in your email client. And again, a couple of real quick, there's my home button. Very simple, but it'll link you right back to that home page. And I've even embedded the Twitter feed on the app. So again, we're still in the app. I could still go back to the homepage. I could go out to Twitter if I wanted to, but here you're seeing what we've tagged on our DC trip account. I'm still in the app. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Like, this made my heart so happy that I could keep people right here. I could give them one spot. And unfortunately, you cannot embed like that on a slide. So that's the biggest pro in the Google Sites favor. And then you might say, well, Sarah, how do we do this? And I'll say, I got you. Because on here, this kind of gives you a little bit of background. I definitely wanted to keep people in one spot. Google Site, if you've not built one, they are actually very simple. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, they're too simple. It doesn't give me enough options. And I'm like, yes, but it only gives you a certain amount of options. And then you're not spending your time trying to figure out, well, do I use that font? Do I use this font? Do I use that color? Do I do this? It kind of takes some of that pressure off of you, and it gives you this simplified version. So I showed you that little preview button. Find that little icon that looks like a mobile phone, and it shows you that nice little preview. And then over here, I just did a real quick video. I actually recorded it on my phone and inserted the video so that you could see what it looks like to actually add the link. And it works for a Google site the same way it would for a Google slide, because the slide's going to open up in your web browser. It's different if you're in Safari or Chrome, or you're in an Android, or you're on an Apple. It works slightly different. Hopefully the icons are enough the same that you can match them up. If not, obviously, again, just give me a holler and I'll help you out. Also, doing a real quick Google search is pretty simple. Or my favorite always is ask your kid. If you have kids of your own or students, ask them. They'll be able to help you. They'll be able to help you add that to your phone. So pros for this, just real quick. Again, it's free, part of G Suite. I would say it's probably more versatile simply for that embedding feature. You can, again, view it on any device as long as it has internet connection. You can format it like we were talking about, how it looks better on a phone than on a computer, but keep in mind both the slide and the site, you have that ability. Like if parents want to pull it up on their computer, they can. They're not missing out on anything. It's not double the work for you. They're both there. It might look a little weird, but you know what? They can get over that. They've still got the information, and that's the goal of any of these, is get that information to the people that need it. Viewers need the link, and you can't find it in the App Store. Again, a pro, because like I mentioned before, it keeps your audience a little bit more narrow. I also found that when you try to put an app in the App Store, I may have played around with an actual app maker. It can be kind of expensive. It can get pricey, and then you worry about the legalities of it. And I just wasn't ready to bite that off and try to figure out how, like, do I pay for it? Like, does the school pay for it? Like, I just said, you know what, like that's a lot. I don't want to go there. I'm just going to share out this link to my parents and my students, and we went with it. And we've had a lot of success. The con, again, it's not going to be found in the App Store, because I always call it my fake app, and Alyssa always gives me a hard time. She always says, Sarah, quit calling it your fake app. It's an app. It's a real app. And I said, but it's not. It's not. I mean, it's a slide or a site. Another kind of big con for the sites is it doesn't necessarily automatically update. The big thing that I found with sites is you have to remember, once you make changes, you have to remember to click that publish button. Otherwise, nothing is out there. Where on a slide, I make a change, boom, it's done, it's out there. But on a site, if I don't click that publish button and I've just changed a whole bunch of stuff, it's not going to pull through to your viewer. It's not going to be there. I haven't published it yet. And then again, with the link, sharing it out is great. Ultimately, they're going to be able to share that link out beyond necessarily your control. I don't put anything on there that's a problem. I don't put anything on there that I would even remotely worry about. So I kind of lessen that. Again, like, it's because I'm thinking consciously about that. And then again, if you use a URL shortener, you can get some data. If you don't use a URL shortener and you send out a link that looks like this, it does become kind of difficult to like share and reshare. I use a URL shortener, honestly, mostly so that I can say, yeah, I use Bitly, so bit.ly.com, or bit.ly/ whatever I give that shortener to become the app. Questions at this point, Desiree? Desiree, anybody there? No? Okay, I'm going to move on, and you say, well, Sarah, how do you create a site? I'm wondering if you're thinking about that. Sites actually live in...
Sorry about that. So just it booted me out of my other computer, but I found I'm on 2 computers. So just stuff like that, like just, oh, we're excited, all that kind of stuff. So keep going.
Keep going. Okay, so Sites actually lives in Drive now, which, boom, I mean, you don't have to go somewhere else. So you just go to your Drive and click New and More, because it's not one of the top 3. Click Google Sites, and boom, there you go. You got your new Google site created. And it's really nice. I noticed this a couple days ago that they have a template gallery. So if you're thinking more along the lines of, oh, it went away. If you're thinking more along the lines of a class app, they did have I'm trying to see where else they tuck that. I just noticed that literally the other day, and I don't know where they keep the template gallery at this point. They do have some layouts over here. But they did have like 2 for education. So again, let's give it a name. Let's go back to thinking about Mrs. Kiefer's class. Let's do 7th grade class. You have some adjustability. You can change what the font thickness would be. I'm going to leave it on title. Change your image. This is pretty cool. You can customize your image and upload it. Or if you're looking just for real quick and easy, come over here to the gallery and you've got some ones already there for you. Let's just pick this one. It looks kind of cool with the post-it notes. It's going to do that pretty cool thing with readability to make sure that, white text on a white background is kind of difficult. It's going to change that for you. But then here's probably one of the cool things is you come over here to the theme. And this is where I say some people that I've talked to, and I had to get over this a little bit, like I can't perfectly customize every tiny little thing. But that's okay because I know that and I can adjust some stuff. I can change the color. Like I said, red is my favorite color. So maybe I want to pick something in red, and you can see immediately when you change it, like this is all it's changing up here, and you'll notice the effect that it carries through. So again, it gives you a more cohesive feel with your site if you allow it. And you can come back through and you can click any of these and adjust. I'm just going to leave this here so we can move on. When you get to insert, if you remember from my trip apps where we had those buttons, right here where we had these buttons, the way that you do those, and this is relatively new, I'd say probably within the last 1.5 years or so, you create a button and you call it home. Obviously, if you're on the home page, you're not going to need to link it to anywhere. So for right now, let's cancel that. Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's add in a page. So probably one page that I would want to have is a homework page. I'd probably want to have a contact me page. Let's do digital resources page. And then let's do a calendar. Again, you could add in pages. You could even add in subpages if you want, but let's go back to our home page. And notice up here, you've got them along the top. Again, slight modifications. I don't want it at the top. I want it to show up over on the side. You can change the color, be transparent, white, black. Gives your app a little bit of a different effect here. Nope, I wanted that on the side, sorry. Let's keep that transparent. And then what do we want to call this? Let's call this, let me go back. I just want to be on my homepage. I just want to call it the same thing that I called the app, or the title on here. And notice that's what it saves as, and that's what you'll look for in your drive. Mrs. Kiefer 7th grade class, that'll be the name of the file in your Google Drive. You can add in a logo if you would like, add in a cute little picture, maybe of yourself, maybe it's something that one of the students created, but let's create a button and let's call it homework. I had gotten a little ahead of myself, and now that I have these pages here, I want it to link to that page. I want to add in another button, and I don't have to do it in the same order. And I'll show you how you can adjust that. Contact me. And then so on and so forth, however you want. Notice these blue lines are going to like link you. I probably want my contact me information at the top. These dotted lines are separating. I want these all just to be in one straight list. And you can make these buttons as big as you would like. And I might go, oh, I wonder what this looks like on a phone, because I'm trying to create that app. Remember? So I come up to the preview and I'm going to click on what it looks like mobile. And I say right there, it looks really good. So when I click on contact me, there you go. And you can put whatever you want on that page. This is where the home button becomes important. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I got to add that in. I'm going to exit my preview. I'm going to add in a button, and I'm going to call it home, and I'm going to link it. Might want to make it the same size. Keep it right up there at the top so that on their phones, it's going to be right there. It's going to be quick access for them. The other cool thing that I have found out is if you leave it selected, which means you got the blue box around it, I'm going to copy. And then I'm going to go to digital resources and I'm going to paste. And then I'm going to go to the homework page and I'm going to paste. And I'm going to go to the calendar and I'm going to paste. So just like you could copy and paste text and images and all things like that, I just copied and pasted that button, and it's going to carry through that link to go back to the home page. So again, save yourself some time. You learn these little things. And then if you notice over here, this is where the embedding feature of a calendar, you click on calendar, and any calendars I have linked, which, sorry people, it's a lot. You can click on any of those calendars and you can actually embed it right here on this particular page on this particular app. And then anytime you add on to that calendar, it's going to show up here. So this is like a one-time creation page. Create it, link your calendar, boom, you're done, walk away, and pat yourself on the back, like good job. If you have YouTube videos that you want to link, you could put those in there. Slides, insert those. If you have a form that you've created, maybe you're looking for feedback, or you have like a check-in thinking about this remote learning, you could create a form, and then on your homework page, maybe you even create this button that says daily check-in form. And you've got a form, and grab the URL and paste it here, so that when your students click on that, it's going to take them right there to that Google form. So then you can build this out. And if you start with a slide, here's where I'm going to also show you a little trick. if you start with a slide like this and you go, I really like these buttons, because this is a great, like this, honestly, if somebody said, you know, where would you suggest? Try a slide first. It's a lot less intimidating. Probably because if you're in a Google for Ed School and you use Google, you're probably pretty familiar with all of the tricks and tips that you can do inside of slides. But what I would do is you could you know, do a little screenshot of that particular app, if you will, that link, and then paste it over here. And then, you know, you can always build, you can always adjust, you can always make it better. So start where you're comfortable and then keep moving.
Sarah, we have a quick question. Can you add the Google Calendar to your Google site? Can you choose what calendar you're adding? I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
So when I click on calendar again, please note, like I have 1,000 of them, right? Because I love calendars. I live and buy calendars. Let me see if I can pull here. I'll just add in my Washington. So I've selected.
Okay, so they can include their Google Classroom calendar because Google Classroom now appears on the real Google Calendar.
Yes, yes. So when you create that Google Classroom, it automatically generates the Google Calendar. If you use that, now please, please, please don't put a calendar on that you don't add anything to, because again, why would I go there if you're not putting anything on there? And then once you do embed the calendar, you can use your settings gear. It doesn't have to look like this. Add the title, don't add the title. Show the date, don't show the date. Put the navigation button so they can go back and forth, don't do that. Don't allow them to have a selection of, what was that, month, agenda, week. I just forced it to the agenda and they just scroll. So they're not accidentally clicking something or looking at somebody else's. This is where I say sometimes choice is too much and it confuses people. So I'm going to leave mine.
Have multiple, this is a question from from Corey. If you have multiple calendars, would you suggest naming the button to the class?
Say that again.
So if you have multiple, I'm guessing multiple like Google Classroom calendars, would you suggest naming the button with the class name?
If I'm interpreting it correctly, I would make a page or putting your buttons up here, like let's say you teach 2 or 3 classes. I think would you put the class names on a button? And then 7th grade.
Yes, that's what Corey is asking.
Yeah, I would insert a button, but I would actually go ahead and create another page so that you can embed that calendar right there. If you just directly link off of the button to a calendar, it's going to take you out. So maybe this is 7th grade homework, and then you have another page, 8th grade homework, or however your classes are, you know, separated. Let's go to here. I'm going to copy, and I'm using my navigation screen over here to the right. I'm going to paste that on here. And then when I'm here, I'm going to go to insert, and I'm going to add in a different calendar. Let's add in, I don't know. Let's do holidays in the US. Adjust. Done. And then again, let's look at this. Let's go to our preview. If I go back to home, remember I linked homework. Now that one's going to 7th grade. So what I've got to do is remind myself, okay, go back to the home page. I need to edit that button, and I want to call this 7th grade homework. And then I'm going to insert, there it is, 8th grade homework, and link it to that page. And then I would probably pop it in right in between there. And then if you're using the Google Calendar as your means of sharing out the homework, you probably, I don't know if you want to put that calendar on there or not. But now let's see what that navigation looks like. Yep, takes me to my 7th grade. Go home. You could also add in an 8th grade link here if you felt like it was necessary. Sometimes that, again, you got to think about your users. Is that going to serve to confuse them if you only have a 7th grader? If you put in the 8th grade, why would I look at 8th grade homework here? You might choose to leave that off. But they can see, like, most of the time they're going to know, like, oh yeah, my teacher teaches these other classes. So again, it's a lot of thinking about what is important for you, what is important for your students and their parents, then I would say as well. The other really cool thing about these buttons is I'm going to pull up, and I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to pull up my own website so I can show you this. Because again, this was something that just like blew my mind. I'm going to copy this URL. I'm going to jump back to my app / my Google site, and I'm going to create a button, and I'm going to call it Our School's Website. Okay, so I'm tricking you here, right? Like I would link this to my school district, but I just want to give a link as an example. I'm going to link it to, pasting it in there, to my website. I'm going to make it the same size. I'm going to tuck it right there in that list. Let's preview this. And this is, again, like one of those little, like, I'd pick up my phone and I'd either text or call Alyssa, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. This is fantastic. When I click on that button, oh, sorry, hang on. I jumped a little too fast. Let me close this out. Let me backtrack a second. I'm going to add a page, and I'm going to call this Our School's Website. See, even though I've done this several times, I still get a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is, hang on, let's go back home. I got to change my navigation now. Oops, come on. I'm going to change that to Our School's Website. I'm actually going to redirect it to that page that I created. And then here, again, I'm going to force the navigation. I'm going to embed my website. And I'm just going to do it by URL. If you're fancy and you know the embed code, go for it. I want to embed the whole page, and I'm going to say insert. And then if you can see that, like I've actually taken my website, Tech You Can Do, I've embedded it on this class page, and now let's preview. I want to start out at home. And now I'm the parent and I'm looking at this, and I want to go to the school's website. So I'm going to click here. It doesn't take you out. It keeps you right here. Now I would adjust a few things and kind of make it so that it fits nicer on here. But you can see, like, I'm not leaving my app. I'm staying right here on my app, but I'm still able to see this website. So you kind of get like the best of both worlds. So we're going to have to maybe smoosh this a bit. I'm going to make this, and this is where you get into some of the adjustments. Keep going, keep going. And you could sit here and you could play with it all day if you would like. I know I do. Sit here and play around and find the best view, see what it really looks like. And then again, when you come back to preview from the home page, hopefully it looks a little bit better. Not much, but again, we can work with it and we can improve from there. Questions, Desiree? Are we good to keep going? It's 1:30.
We are good to keep going. Tiffany just had a comment. I wouldn't allow my students to have access to all classes. My pre-AP math classes are different from my on-level classes. I wouldn't want to cause confusion. So she just had a comment. But a lot of awesomes, a lot of screaming at the screen again. So we are good to keep going if you want to show light.
Okay. And just to, I think it was Tiffany that you said, to your point, you could take and build out one complete website, one complete app, and then I believe it's available now. You can make a copy. Desiree, I've never done it, but I've heard that you can make copies of Google Sites now.
If you can, it may be going back to Google Drive and then just right-clicking and clicking make a copy.
Okay.
You can. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, if you build out the bones of your site for your app and then duplicate it, at least you don't have to copy, like if you don't have to redo. So again, I'm gonna go back to my time as the trip coordinator for DC. Let me get back here. So we covered Google Sites. Going back to my time as the coordinator for the DC trip, there's a lot of things that have to get done. They have to get done. They have to get done in a certain time. And it can be exhausting when you're talking 180 some plus students. We do take our parents as well. So that typically will add another 30 to 40, depending on the year, parents, as well as our teacher chaperones that are going. The one year, our biggest year yet, 249, which I know for a lot of schools is not massive, but that really only meant that we were leaving about 40 kids at home. Like 40 students didn't travel with us for many reasons. But and I started thinking like how cool it would be, because I was doing a lot of emailing, if I had a way for parents to be able to see what they did have done, what they didn't have done, and be able to refer to that, and I could update it and see all of that kind of stuff. So of course I'm like, that's not possible. And then I started talking to people, and I had read about this application called Glide Apps, which is all built from a Google Sheet. All of it. Like it's built from a Google Sheet. It's generated from a Google Sheet. So if you can kind of understand Google Sheets, it's impressive. So it's glideapps.com. And I'm going to show you. This is actually, let me go back. So that's a little preview. So thinking about like the EMA, having your trip paid for, we have a student contract that they get signed. We need all these different kinds of pieces from these students. And I wanted like a personalized to-do list. So I came across Glide Apps, and this one is like where, if your mind hasn't already been blown, I can almost guarantee you it will be blown by Glide Apps. Mine was, and I just like, you say, how do you have a brain left, Sarah? You keep saying it gets blown, but I just love learning, and this is where we go from there. I'm actually going to go back to, let's go to glideapps.com. This is your page. It uses a Google sign-in, so it's connected to my Google account. Notice I've made quite a few of these, and I made a to-do list with travelers. So where I started though was a Google Sheet. Now, trust me, this is all fake data. It's actually just a lot of people that, several people that I know that I just wanted to play around with information. So this is all fake stuff, but you can see I've got traveler name, the type of traveler that they are, parent's name, the email, the last date I put this in here so I would remember like when have I updated this last, so the parents could also see when I updated it. What is their balance? We use final forms. Has it been completed? I used the little drop down so I could cheat. And I've got some generic statements filled in there. You can add in links. Again, using a Google form for adults. Again, with some generic drop downs, which makes my life a whole lot easier. Here, if they needed the link, I could add in the link. Student contract, has that been signed? Yes, no. Did you place an order? Yes, no. Do we have your payment? Like all of these things have to get done, and I'm trying to keep track of them, and I'm trying to, let parents know and keep all of this in. So I created this Glide app, which at its basis looks like this. It's really cool. So on the sign in, again, it's very simple. They've updated it so you can sign in with your Google account. So again, no username or password. Because it's public with email, that means that only the person that puts in that email address can see what's attached to that email address. So on your sheet, if you notice, that's this column right here. Column D is super important. So here's one of my email addresses, and I'm going to copy it so we can fake this out. You can preview this. So on your screen, I'm going to see what does it look like, and the button's here to the left. And I'm going through this Glide very quickly. I want to preview this as my personal account. You say, well, it didn't change, and I say, yes, I know. So let's go into the design of the app. So all three of these have my email address attached to them as a traveler. So I've got 2 students traveling and then an adult. So when I click on Allie's, you see where it's her, she's a student. And these little grays are your column headers. And then the bigger black text is actually what shows up in the column. So the date the information was updated on 2/17, column header, and the date. Current balance, how much, and notice this is just for Allie. That's it. That's the only thing that I could see because of my email address. I can see her stuff. I can see the second student, maybe they're twins. They're actually not. They're just 2 of my daughters. One's older, one's not. Or one's a lot younger. But then you see how it changed. And you can see here, like these comments. Please click the link below. Oh, see how it turned to a hand? I can actually click this, and this is one where it does take you out of this particular app, and it opens up the link. But in this case, it has to, because this is an outside program. Has your student completed the contract? Yes, it has. If it was no, and I think I left Allie's at no. Oh, no, she did too. It would then give the link below that. But because they both have, I don't need to have the link shown. And the way you do that is it's left blank. So any of these cells here that are blank, that whole column doesn't even appear on their app. Because notice this is for adults. I only have it on any of the travelers that show adults. So when you come back here and you go to my adult, yes, you have completed your EMA. Thanks. I even add in like little niceties. It's like I'm constantly talking to these people, which I feel like I am, but I'm not. And then the other thing up here is it does show the email address that is registered. And I did that so if a parent ever says, well, but I can't see such and such, I say, well, this is the email that I have registered. This is the email that you have to use to log in. Oh, okay. And I can always change that because, again, it's just a cell in my data or in my sheet. It's just one of the pieces of data that I have. Now, if you notice, I've got a second email. I'm going to copy this. And as the creator, it is just this simple. Copy and paste that in. And it completely changed who I had access to. So this piece was really helpful for me because a parent might call and say, well, but I did do such and such, and you said I didn't. I can actually see exactly what it is, and I'm the creator. I'm the only one that can see this. Like, I should know what pieces they have and haven't done. So let's see what Maddie says. So here, she's got different information. You can see the email's changed. She doesn't owe anything. EMA is done, on and on and on. Now, I will say this helped out recently big time. This is all fake data. I just plugged and chugged some of this stuff in because I needed to flesh this out. I did put it on my phone. You can see it. It's real nice. If you click share, you get a QR code that you can share out to parents. The links are very simple and quick. And I can share that. And, I don't even mind if you try to log in. But unless you have one of these email addresses and then it'll generate a PIN or you're using Google, you won't be able to get in. So therefore, I really kind of narrowed out who has access, because this is sensitive information. This is very sensitive information. Everybody doesn't need to know some of this stuff. So,
Sarah, we do have a quick question.
Sure.
So if you are creating the assignment tracker, you get the sheets up first and then connect it to Glide?
Yes, that's highly what I would suggest. And if you go to my, I've got a template. I've got the workflow for it. Let me pull that up real quick. I've got a template ready to go for you, because I know like that can be a tough part to all of this. You click on the green sheet, and here's the template. Would you like to make a copy? Why, yes, Google. Yes, I would. And if you notice the step, you've got a pre-A and a pre-B. So grab the sheet, make your Glide account, and then when you go into there, you bring the two together. You'd hover over, I've got a little video here, you hover over, and that's how you connect the actual sheet to your Glide app. So yeah, I mean, the sheet is here if you want to, or just, I mean, there's absolutely like zero things fancy about this sheet. It does not have a lot of formatting. There actually, other than I froze this so that you could add in a bunch of assignments to go out to forever. I've already got a template for you. When you click on this workflow right here, it will take you to this, as well as if you were to read the blog that I wrote from Sunday, it's got all this information in there too. Additional questions?
Where is the template? It's in your slideshow, right?
Yeah, this is the slideshow that Desiree will share out later, right? In an email?
Sometime today. I'll just say that.
Okay. So when you get the slide deck, it's in here, and it's towards the bottom, because remember, slides is where I started. Then I moved into sheets, and then just this past year, I have tackled Glide. So this is a multi-year progression and growth for me. But this distance learning tracker, the basic story is I had a third grade teacher say they do use Google Classroom. They hadn't trained the kids or the parents in a way to really make it comfortable for them to understand what's done, what's not done. Our grading program isn't open for third graders or their parents. And they were like, how can I make this simple? And I was like, my to-do list works perfectly. Like, let's put in an assignment here, put in some kind of a narrative, give them a little bit of feedback, like, hey, great job. Or on question 4, why don't you go back? Can you redo such and such or whatever? It's a great communication piece as well. And you can do that all through this Google Sheet and connect it to Glide. And it worked wonderfully. I was actually just talking to the one teacher that I created this for the other day, and she said that she had so many positive comments on it, saying how easy it was. It was very simple for the parents. They kept it on their phone. You log in, and the parents knew. As long as she updated her sheet, it was good to go.
So we have a couple of questions. One is, do you teach a class on Google Sheets?
Like, do I teach students about it, or like have I done like a webinar? Or
like a webinar, or I guess teach teachers, because she's familiar with like some of the other Google products, but not comfortable or super comfortable with Sheets.
Desiree, are you interested in hosting one on Google Sheets? Because I would love to. I love Sheets. I think it's a fantastic tool, and I think, I mean, I would say I do not know a whole lot about Sheets, but I'm continually learning, and it is a very, very powerful tool. All of the Google Suite apps are. I don't have anything pre-created. If you go to my site, though, what might be helpful to get you started, this is my big one on Sunday, the distance learning tracker gives you the story behind this. If you scroll down to, I do tag everything, so if you click on Google Sheets, you'll see a lot of the things that I have that I've done with Sheets. Importing calendar dates, that was a big one. And I love it. Templates that I've got already ready for Sheets, and so on. And if that person wants to reach out, like maybe I could even do like a one-on-one, like a Q&A, or help them out too.
I've already written down that we're doing a webinar on Sheets, because I actually teach Sheets as well. I don't go deep into like formulas and all that, like just kind of just what to do with what you already have on your sheet. So maybe we can get together and do a webinar.
That would be
guys, keep an eye out for that. And then I have what Nikki Smith wants to do. She's asking, I'm kind of going through the information. How can she create an app that will be found in the App Store? And I'm saying she, and you know, whatever her pronoun is. I just caught myself on that. But how can Nikki create an app that will be found in the App Store? She's looking for easy public access. Do you know something that would do that?
I've tried a couple of different ones. I was the most successful with one called AppyPie, AppyPie. That is one that I created, kind of like side by side with one of the years that I did a slide app. But then when I got it to the point where I was going to publish it into the web store, and I did it to see what that would be like, the cost kind of threw me. I didn't expect it to be as expensive. And then they started talking about all of the legalities of putting an app in the App Store and getting it vetted, and do you want our company to help you walk through that process? And I was kind of like, I mean, I don't feel that strongly do you have to go through all of that. If you do, there's AppyPie is one, Thunkable is another one that I've checked out.
How do you spell that?
Thunkable is THUNKABLE, all one word. And then I know MIT has some sort of app creating resource. I don't remember the name of it. Those are probably the three that and I say the most, meaning just like I've heard about them. AppyPie I did use. Thunkable I tried. It might work well for other people. It didn't fit well in my brain. AppyPie works better, but again, you have to go through and think about like what is your goal.
Okay, we have one more question. Is there a way to connect the glide back to your class site? And if I missed any more questions, guys, please repost. But is there a way to connect the glide back to your class site?
What I would suggest is coming here and grabbing the app link. And then if you think about it, whether it's your class site, it's a Google site, it's a Google Classroom, it's a web page that you use through your school, it's through an email, however you want to share out this link. If you grab this, copy this link, you can paste it anywhere. I know the one teacher used one of those, the Class Dojo, I think it was, and she could send it to the parents. They're already checking that on their phones. So when they pull up that message, they click on it and, you know, it takes them right over into that distance learning tracker app. And, you know, kind of helps the two marry together. But the nice thing is they have to get into the app when you restrict it by sign-in. So if you post this in here for students in like Google Classroom, but you have the account tied to the parent's email, it's not going to do the kids a whole lot of good. And I could be very, very wrong on this, but I think you can only tie one email address to each row. So we had one situation where she said, well, what about a student that has 2 households? And I said, well, at its very basic, simplest form, have 2 rows for that student so that you can have the parents, each of the parents' email addresses in there, and then just all of the data is just duplicated. It's a little extra work on the teacher part, but it does allow a little bit. There's probably, honest and truly, there's probably a way to do it simpler within Google or within Glide apps, but I'm no expert on that. That was just my thinking initially.
And that's it for questions. Guys, if you have any other questions, please put it in the chat. Ooh. And Sarah, did you have any last words before we start wrapping up?
I just wanted to tell everybody thank you for coming. I love sharing this out. Desiree, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this. Please do connect. Like, that is a really cool aspect of the world that we live in today, that we can reach out and talk to each other, you know, even across the oceans, like, right? We can do this globally. So please don't hesitate if you have questions. And I do, honestly, a lot of teachers will say to me, like, oh, I know this is probably a stupid question, or this is probably so easy for you. I started somewhere too. And like I tell them, I'm like, my journey started a handful of years ago. I said, so I've had a handful of years in doing this, probably even more than a handful of years in doing this. So I never compare like where I am to where somebody else is for that particular reason. Like I try to stretch myself and say, wow, like Desiree does all these webinars. Like maybe I could do that one day. I'm not ready to at this point in time. You know, like learning from and working with Desiree, you know, maybe that would be something I could tackle down the road. So don't ever feel like you have a stupid question or it's too easy or whatever. I'm always happy to answer them. And if you have a bigger question and I don't have the answer, I'll help you find it.
And we all start somewhere, y'all. We did have a last question. Now, I do see some more comments coming in, but this was a question that was kind of further up. So if you're doing the assignment tracker, would you do 3 roles if you want 2 parents and a student?
You could. And this is probably I guess I didn't go over the pros and cons to Glides, so I apologize for that. Probably the biggest con for Glide is obviously it's free, right? It's built from a Google Sheet, but it is not a Google product itself. Glide is not. So you are limited to 500 rows of data. So here I'm using 11 rows of data. So if you take your class and you multiply, you know, one for a parent and then for a student, I would need to be using, so 21 because my header row, just for these 10 students. So keep that in mind. You can upgrade. I like to try to do as much free as possible. And then the other alternative would be that you have, you know, more apps. You know, like maybe this is your parent app and this is your student app, or this is for period 1 and this is for period 2. They're not going to see everybody else, so they'll never know, regardless if it's one app or you have 7 apps, one for each class period. But that is probably the big downfall, is that eventually you can see I'm using 12 rows out of my 500. So just keep that conscious. I don't ever try to push programs that I know have a cost, but this just has such value, even in its free state.
Okie dokie, guys. So I'm going to wrap this up. She stayed an entire extra hour helping and presenting. Guys, give her some feedback.
Whoop, whoop. Thanks for sticking around.
Corey asks, is that for every app you create? Are you limited on the number of apps?
I have not seen any limit to the number of apps, and I believe it is for each sheet is the number of 500. Let's see what it says. Free apps are limited to 500 rows, upgrade to increase to 25,000. So I guess if you're willing to pay a handful of smackers, which I didn't even look at the cost. Again, I try to operate cheap, as my husband would say, frugal.
Frugal. So Corey says, so create an app for each class.
Depending on, like, are you thinking, if you stop and you go, I'm going to use this one app for a quarter, then you can wipe all of the information away. That doesn't mean you're deleting it. You know, make a copy of it, start fresh each quarter. You might be able to get away with it because you have to do that little balance of, do I want to have 7 apps or do I want to have 3? You know, what are you going to be able to maintain per class period? I think makes a lot of sense.
Okay, guys, so we are going to wrap this up. I will say that you will get the recording of this and her slideshow by tomorrow. I'm not going to promise today. I'm going to say by tomorrow because I do have another event, so I'm not going to promise today. But we really don't need the slideshow. We're fine. So, I'm pulling up like everything besides what I want to pull up. So guys, the evaluation is in the chat box. Go ahead and please fill that out. If you need help signing in, I will help those people in a second. But go ahead and fill out the evaluation, and thank you so much. And Sarah, you got a lot of thank yous in the
thank you for coming
and hand claps, and I think people stayed because it was amazing. So thank you. Like, I cannot thank you enough, first of all, for just presenting for us, but then for staying and answering questions and just going through. You can tell that you're passionate about this. You can tell that you love it, and we appreciate you sharing that passion and that love with us today. So thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you.